everyone. I'm Megan with the I Believe podcast, and today we have a fantastic guest. We have Anna Clough. She is the founder and owner of Strong and Healthy. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you so much for having me here, Megan. I'm excited to chat with you today.
I'm really excited about this too. So today we are going to talk about the big rocks. So explain to us, what does that mean?
Yeah, so for anyone listening, I'm a nutrition coach, health coach, fitness coach. So I really help people transform their body, transform their health. And when I talk about the big rocks, to me, this is the big like dial movers when it comes to progressing in your health and fitness journey. It's really easy to, get caught up in the weeds of that you see these things on social media like, oh, what's the perfect macro split and this biohacking trick, when in reality, the most important things that are going to get you 80% of your results are the big rocks. So I thought that today, chatting with you guys about what those are, what are the most important things when it comes to making progress on a health and fitness journey, and sort of giving some tips as to how you can potentially improve some of these areas is what I thought would be awesome to just speak on today.
100%. So I think that for any of us, this is huge because we get so caught up in we have to eat so many grams of protein and drink so many ounces of water, and we have to do this and we have to do that it gets very overwhelming to do all the things. So I think focusing on just what's the most important is great, especially because people in our community who are on a cancer journey, they're already overwhelmed and they already have all these medications they're doing or health stuff. So to really kind of just pare it down to here's what's important is going to be really beneficial.
Yeah, I say leave the like crazy nuance to me to be able to filter and be able to bring to you. That's really my goal when working with clients, when doing something like this, is to be able to take all this information and how can we make it as simple as possible, because people are busy, people have a lot of things going on in their own lives, and they don't have time to weed through all the different messages they hear of, oh, this is the best diet to do and this is the thing. So I'm looking forward to just getting into what are the basics and how can you implement this in your life today.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so we'll start with the first sort of big rock. And what that is sleep. And these are going to be in no particular order, but if I had to maybe say, I would say sleep is probably number one. Sleep is such an important thing when it comes to our health, when it comes to being able to recover from the work that we do in, exercising, when it comes to just repairing our body and just being the healthiest versions of ourselves. And so if you're someone who struggles with their sleep, or maybe is up on their phone kind of like late at night, this is definitely an area to focus on and to see how you can really improve. So for most people, 7 to 9 hours a night is a great place to be. It is quite person dependent. Some people, they do a little bit fine and better with a little bit less. Some people do need up to like 9 or, even 10 plus. I know that for me, I like my 9 hours. That's when I feel really, really good. I wish it didn't have to be so much, but it's really important that we do get enough rest for our bodies. And so when it comes to some things that you can work on and implement is, I find with a lot of my clients, the phone, the screens, that is what is holding us back from getting the rest that we truly need. And if we're staying up later than we should be, we're like scrolling, doom scrolling, or, watching Netflix. Then the next day we're groggy and then we're low energy. We have higher cravings. It just leads to this whole spiral of like sort of negative events. And so the thing to start with is your bedtime is, okay, maybe you put your phone down at a certain hour. You have an alarm. You say, all right, this is where my phone goes up on the charger. And I'm going to read, I'm going to do something, to calm myself down. And yeah, this is like personally, it's something I always have to come back to. It's so easy to just, get caught up in all the different enticing things of, social media or whatever it is you like to consume. But that's really the biggest thing that I would start with. And then one other tip for sleep that's super powerful is getting some sunlight in your eyes in the morning. So when you wake up, if you can get some sunlight in your eyes, that's actually going to help anchor your circadian rhythm to be able to help you get tired at night. So it's going to help sort of regulate that rhythm of your cortisol spiking in the morning and therefore helping your melatonin spike at night. So cortisol and melatonin are sort of like inversely correlated. So having those working together nicely is going to be really important. And sunlight is a really easy way to help that process, even like 5 minutes. 5 minutes, just getting some sunlight in your eyes is amazing. And even getting some sunlight in the like afternoon, evening hours, like an evening walk, that has been shown to also improve our sleep as well. So anytime you can really get outside, get some sunlight, that's overall going to be a really health positive habit.
That's really cool. I would have never thought like looking at the sun in the morning, or not looking at it, obviously. We don't want to fry our eyes. I didn't say that, guys. Getting sunlight in your eyes is not looking at the sun. Just, we don't look at the sun. But getting sunlight, I would have never even thought that that would then affect you at nighttime. So that is a really cool takeaway there.
Yeah, it's a super easy habit. I like to tell my clients, okay, when you're having, your morning electrolyte drink, like make it a little habit stack to go stand outside on your deck or, have your cup of coffee outside and just make it like a little routine. And it's such a easy, powerful way to really help improve our sleep.
Fascinating. I love that.
Yeah, so and that kind of leads me into the next like big rock, which is hydration. So hydration is so crucial. Our body is made up of something crazy like 70% water. And when you're properly hydrated, you're going to function better in all the ways. Cognitively, you're going to be sharper. You're going to be able to be more focused. You're going to be able to perform better in the gym. If you're into fitness, you're going to get a better pump, for anyone who knows what that is. And then, yeah, just overall really going to support all the different systems of your body. So with hydrating, very good rules of thumb is first, if your pee isn't clear, that's a sign that we need more water. So if you pee is not clear, that's when I would say, all right, let's up the water. Also, if you're feeling like really thirsty at times, that's you already being dehydrated. So we actually want to try and be ahead of that and not ever really get to that place of we're really thirsty, because then we're already in that dehydrated state. So being proactive with drinking water, a lot of people will tell me, oh, but I'm not actually thirsty. I just wait until, I really need water. And like when we get to that state, we're already kind of in a negative place. So we want to be ahead of that. And then I did mention electrolytes. This is a really awesome thing to implement, is doing like a daily electrolyte drink mix. I call it like doing like a mineral cocktail. Is like, I have a bunch of different recipes I could absolutely share with you guys and share it in the show notes if you'd like. But having a daily drink where you're getting in some magnesium, some potassium, and some sodium. These are going to be like the 3 electrolytes that are really important to keep in balance, especially if you're someone who likes to, eat healthy and, exercise. A lot of the time, if someone starts eating healthier, maybe all of a sudden they're consuming a lot less sodium. And it's actually really important to get enough sodium in your diet. And a lot of people start eating healthier, maybe they start feeling a lot worse, really tired, energy's off, they're bloated, they're watery, and we're not actually getting enough sodium. I have clients who, they're like, oh, I'm having these bad headaches, and we implement electrolytes and take symptoms away. You feel so much better, because really we need sodium to actually like truly hydrate our cells and like push water into our cells. So doing something like a packet of, I really love the electrolytes by Relight. So like Redmond Relight is my favorite one at the moment. They've got a really nice ratio of like potassium to sodium and magnesium. So those are really what I'm finding as like the best ones on the market right now. So you can like get those online, or if you want to make just a simple at home, not buy any product. You can do like a squeeze of lemon. You can do, pinch of salt, just something like, coconut water. Maybe you can add like a splash of orange juice and make that's really kind of the basic recipe for my mineral cocktails that I'm always having clients do in the morning. So it's a really great way to just support your hydration, even support your adrenals, meaning your stress. So being able to help just your body in all those ways.
That's a great idea. And I feel like mocktails are really getting more hype nowadays. Less people are drinking alcohol, but you still want a fun drink. Would that be something you could drink in the evening as like a mocktail to unwind, or is it more of a morning thing?
I'd say absolutely. You could have it anytime. I think in the morning tends to be just a nice way to rehydrate you after a night of sleep. But yeah, I mean, it's a great tip for anyone who feels peer pressured by maybe you're around family or friends who are always drinking and you're someone who doesn't want to participate in that. You can go ahead and make your mineral cocktail when it's nothing like a cocktail, but it's just like, combination of a few things. And then also like doing something like sparkling water, just that's like a little good side note is having something like that in your hand when you're in those environments can be really great to just like not get any questions or peer pressure from people.
If you do a sparkling water with a lime in it, nobody will ask you what it is because they assume it's vodka.
Exactly. That's a pro tip right there.
Yep, and it's delicious. If I'm not drinking, that's my go-to is just club soda with a lime. Yeah, and I mean, not that I have ever had anybody bother me about it, but they also don't even think to ask.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a really great tip. And then one more note when it comes to hydration is if you're like, I have, no idea where to start with how much water to drink. I hear all these different things. Really good place to start is half of your body weight in ounces. And then if you're exercising, sweating, I would add like 10 or 20 ounces like per hour of that on top of that. But that's a really good place to start. For a lot of people, working up to a gallon is a great place to be. If you go, wow, that sounds absolutely impossible, that's okay. Start with what you can. And really my methodologies and the things that I'm always preaching is meet yourself where you're at. I'm always, doing this with clients is like, yes, maybe a gallon would be optimal, but if you're doing 60 ounces right now, let's bump you up to 80. You can totally do that, and we can slowly work you up to what that optimal place would be.
How many ounces are in a gallon?
128.
128. Wow, that's a lot of ounces, but yeah, it's totally doable.
Yeah, my favorite like tips for getting in your gallon is you got to start early, especially, after a night of sleep, just thinking I need to rehydrate my body after, being dehydrated from sleeping. And then making sure when you're exercising, walking, like all those things, we're really drinking a lot of water, like getting 20 ounces in and just making sure to drink it throughout the day. Because that's really where I see people go wrong is if they go an extended period of time without drinking anything. And then that's really what screws them up. And then it's 7 p.m. and you've got 50 ounces of water left. And you're like, how am I going to do this?
And then you're going to be up all night in the bathroom.
Exactly. Exactly.
You got to front load that.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, that's what I try to do. I try to get it in the earlier part of the day so that I'm not up all night.
Yes, major key for sure. So, yeah, that's kind of sleep, hydration, and then the next big pillar of wellness is going to be nutrition. So, nutrition is really something that unfortunately there's not a lot of just good sources out there of information, to be frank. Just on social media, there's a lot of, oh, this diet or this diet, and people are kind of left very confused. And also when it comes to, maybe you'll see a doctor and a lot of them aren't trained on nutrition at all. So it is hard to kind of find like, okay, what's the best strategy for me and what's really going to be most impactful? And so I'll give some of the like number one, easiest, big things that you can implement with your nutrition to be able to start improving your health. And Of course, this is very individual and different people are going to require different, things, but I'm going to just sort of talk on the big philosophies that I think you guys will love.
Aura Biosciences is a clinical stage biotechnology company focused on developing precision therapies for solid tumors that aim to preserve organ function. Our lead candidate, Belsar, is currently in late stage development for primary choroidal melanoma and in early stage development in other ocular oncology indications and bladder cancer. Our mission is to grow as an innovative global oncology company that positively transforms the lives of patients. For more information, please visit us at aurabiosciences.com.
So, first off, is when it comes to nutrition, really trying to transition your diet into being more whole food based. So, if you're someone who, a lot of standard American diet incorporates a lot of ultra processed foods, we want to try and kind of get away from those and get into some more whole foods based eating. And reason for that is ultra processed foods tend to hijack our cravings and lead us to want to eat more. They're created with just the perfect formulations of sugar, fat, salt to just really like make our reward centers go crazy and, make us really want to overeat so that, people who are making the food, we buy more, they make more money. That's kind of the whole, the whole process there. And so I love explaining that sort of portion of things because I think it's easy to feel like, gosh, I just don't have like the willpower, or like, gosh, I feel like I just can't control myself, when, we need to learn to have some compassion for that, because literally foods are designed to have us eat more. That's just kind of how that works. And so I think that perspective can really help us give, some compassion to ourselves. But being able to transition your diet into trying to reach like 80-90% of your diet being whole foods based with your nutrition. And what I mean by that is eating things as close to their natural form as you can. Just meaning like eating things like lean meats, vegetables, fruits, doing grains and like high quality sources of, those grains, those carbohydrates. And, things like potatoes are amazing, and finding sources of healthy fats. So giving just more specific examples, things like avocado, nuts, seeds, extra virgin olive oil, so like high quality oils. When it comes to carbs, like I said, sweet potatoes, rice. My mind always draws a blank beyond that, but those are really going to be those best sources there. And then when it comes to protein, doing things like beef, chicken, eggs, those are all going to be some really high quality sources of protein, and making sure that you're getting a good balance of all these different sources, these macronutrients, right? Protein, carbs, fat, and then fiber is super important. And the easiest way to start implementing this in your life now is start by just creating balanced plates, okay? Literally, if you're like, I don't know where to start, this is where I want you to start, is when you're making yourself a dinner, when you're planning, your lunch meals, is think about, okay, what's my protein source? What is my carbohydrate source? What is going to be my fat source? And where am I getting in my fiber, color, right? Think fruits, veggies, and making sure that we have a balance of those things, okay? And that balance is going to look different for everyone. Maybe some people require more protein, some people require more fats. It all sort of depends on the person, but just making sure that you're getting in all those sources to start is a really great place to start. And then, beyond that, I would say a nutrition coach would be an amazing next step to be able to have a really structured, tailored plan for you. But really speaking to someone who's like, all right, where do I even start with improving my nutrition? Those are the big rocks, is build balanced meals with whole foods. And then last piece around nutrition is mindful eating. This is such a great practice to start incorporating in your day that anyone can do. And Basically, mindful eating comes down to slowing down when you're eating your food, actually chewing your food, not just like throwing it back in your mouth and swallowing it like a lot of us do. We're running around, people are busy, people are stressed or, distracted. And so that, like just swallowing food whole, that's going to impair the digestion process. If you're not mindful when you're eating, you're going to have a hard time like connecting your brain to your gut to be able to recognize when you actually are even full. There's actually like a 10 or 20 minute delay when it comes to your brain being able to signal to your body that recognizing your gut is full. So that's why if you ever like go back for seconds and then after you eat your seconds, you're like, oh my God, I'm so full. That is often what's happening is you didn't give yourself enough time to like have your gut, have your brain catch up with each other. So being mindful means slowing down, chewing your food, removing distractions best that you can. So I don't know if anyone's experienced this. I know I have. When you're watching TV and you got a bag of chips, all of a sudden the whole thing's gone. And you're like, how did that happen? So making sure that you are being present with your body when you're eating and like checking in, like, okay, how am I feeling? Let me pause for a little bit. Let me really like feel the taste and the texture of this food in my mouth. Because so many times we're just eating and we're not even appreciating what's in our mouth. I don't know if you guys have ever felt this way, but I always felt this way with an Oreo box. Is I would be eating Oreos and I would only be thinking about the next Oreo that's going in my mouth, but not even thinking about the one that's currently in my mouth. And I'm like, when you think about it, that's so crazy. And that's such a, opposite of mindfulness. And it's really something that can just lead to overeating, eating in a way that's really, something where we maybe don't want to be doing. And so being mindful is a really great way to just help yourself, center yourself, get into a calm state, be able to be mindful with your food and listen to your body and make more intentional choices.
Yeah, it's so important. Like you said, I think it's so easy to get overwhelmed with all of the choices of this is healthy, this is not healthy, this diet, that diet. Do you do no sugar? Do you do keto? Do you do paleo? Like all of these things are thrown at us and they're all supposed to be the best one and it gets so confusing. But I love your approach of just eating whole foods and not limiting like, oh, you can't have this, you can't have that. Just focus on whole, natural, healthy foods. I think that is so important. I love that. And you're right, the mindfulness, absolutely. With everything in my day, if I'm not mindful, all of a sudden I have either eaten a whole bag of chips or I've wasted an hour and done nothing, doom scrolled on our phones. Like it's so important to pay attention, especially nowadays because we are so distracted.
Absolutely, for sure. And when I have people who, you hear all this nutrition, these diets and this and that, these are the principles that for most everyone is going to be extremely powerful. And the really cool thing is when you eat in a way where you're eating mostly whole foods, that's going to naturally really regulate your appetite. You're going to actually be like, wow, I'm full and I can actually eat a good bit of food, right? But when we're eating ultra processed foods, it feels like we can like never be fully satisfied or never be fully full. And there was a study done where they had a group of people who ate just whole foods, group who ate mostly ultra processed foods. And they told both groups, eat as much as you want, just, go for it. And this is me very much butchering the study, but this is the premise of it. The group that had all the ultra processed foods on average ate 500 calories more per day. So that just goes to show how it's super easy to overconsume when it comes to just the food, the choices that we make and the quality. Because at the end of the day, like the king of changes when it comes to if your goal is, fat loss, weight loss, health, metabolic improvements, if your goal is to, go in that direction, being in a calorie deficit is king. So the amount of food that you're eating. But what is very much queen right behind that is quality. So quality will influence so much the quantity of what you eat, and you won't have to, be so reliant on like a tracking app, and really just like getting your body very in tune with your nutrition. It's a very intuitive way to go about health improvements. And, this is, again, like this is where I really start with people. And, there's, of course, like the advanced different cool strategies we can do we can talk about fasting, we can talk about like all those different things that go into nutrition. Because yeah, there is a lot and it's hard. And that's why like I have dedicated my life to becoming a nutrition coach. I was so confused myself at the start, and it had led me down just overly restricting and leading to like binge eating behaviors. And that's really sort of my goal, is to help people avoid that and help people really find what's going to truly work for them and their goals, whether it is, health, fat loss, or even if it's muscle building, right? I sort of work with, all those sorts of different types of goals. But again, like these basic philosophies and pillars are going to really apply to all of those situations. I love talking about nutrition, and like that could be, like we talked about, a whole nother episode.
Yeah, because it's so important and it's so hard to figure it out by yourself.
Absolutely. So yeah, having a nutrition coach in your corner is awesome. I've had my own nutrition coach for years now, and like with different ones, I've been able to work on different things like, I used to struggle with like emotional eating and sort of using food as a coping mechanism, and sort of working through things like that, and just been able to go through different methods of, you can track your food and see amazing progress with that. You can also learn to like eat intuitively and be able to support your health in a really great way through that method. And yeah, right now I'm currently working on some gut healing I had a few issues going on. I did some testing. I did a GI map and just found some things that needed to be improved. So right now I'm doing something called carb pulsing, which is just kind of, we're pulsing, we're doing high carb days, we're doing some low carb days, and it's really just sort of like a medicinal, like strategy for healing. And so there's a lot of different sort of strategies we can use with specific issues. But again, like at the end of the day, like these whole foods, eat mindfully, balance your plate, like that is going to get you so much of the way there.
Fascinating.
So I guess we can transition next into exercise. Of course, cannot leave out exercise, especially being a trainer and fitness coach. It is so important to regularly exercise, and specifically resistance train. Resistance training, meaning working with weights, bands, you can do body weight. It's really anything where we can really place resistance on the muscle. So it's kind of, think of like weight room versus, cardio, right? A lot of the time cardio is what people know. It is what has been recommended by like the medical system, is you need X amount of, minutes of cardio per week. And what's really cool is finally resistance training is getting the rap that it deserves and starting to be like recommended when it comes to healing plans, when it comes to any sort of health improvements we're looking to see. Building muscle is so incredibly crucial when it comes to your health. And, I hear a lot of the time, there's some people who maybe are scared of lifting weights, of, I'm going to get bulky and I'm going to, turn in, too masculine or whatever it is. And what I say to that is I've been trying to do that for like 10 years and it hasn't worked yet. So you don't have to worry about that. The people who do look, bulky or whatever, it's extremely intentional, and usually their whole life is centered around it. But resistance training is really like the fountain of youth, is what they call it. When you build more muscle, you're going to be able to metabolize carbohydrate a lot better. You're going to have better glucose regulation. You're going to have better energy. You're going to have improved longevity. So if you're someone who is really interested in living just the highest quality of life that you can now and in the future, like thinking about being able to walk like into your old age, being able to, get up and down, being able to, just do those different life things, resistance training is going to be the key. to like preventing, falling, right? I know for a lot of people, you feel like, oh, that's so far off, but that doesn't matter for me right now. But really, implementing this habit is so powerful because it really compounds over time. And what's really cool, if you're someone who's like, I don't currently exercise, I like getting into it seems a little scary. I totally get that. I work with a lot of people who are beginners. And what I say to that is starting with literally one session a week of resistance training can have immense benefits, and you can see amazing progress and changes if you do it the right way. But really going about resistance training in just making it effective. A lot of I do a little bit of in-person training in addition to my nutrition and fitness coaching online. So my training clients, a lot of them are super busy and they don't think about their fitness anytime beyond seeing me like once a week or sometimes twice a week. And, we come in here, we get a really effective session in, and week over week, we're making progress. They're seeing the changes in their body. They're seeing the changes in their energy and just feeling stronger, feeling more vitality. So it's really cool when you can implement resistance training, just the power of what it will do for you. And so I'm happy to speak more to if you have any like questions about exercise or things that you want me to dive more into, but that's kind of where I would start with exercise.
Yeah, I think that what a lot of people don't realize is, especially like our community, this ocular melanoma, this disease affects usually older people, some younger people, but on average it's going to be older people. And for them, I think one of the things that's overlooked with exercise that's so important is that it does lubricate your joints and make it easier to move and maintain muscle. Like you might not maybe be building, maybe you're just keeping from losing, but all of those little things, just being able to get around the house better and not fall down, it's so crucial that you keep moving so that you can keep moving.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And preventing muscle loss is huge as we age, but also you can absolutely build muscle at any age. Like people come to me and they're in their 50s, 60s, they're like, can I still build muscle? Like and obviously there's changes as we age, but you can absolutely 100% build muscle. And yeah, it's even more important, at that point is to just get started wherever you are now. It's never too late to get started with exercising, and you can start small, right? So yeah, definitely an amazing habit and very important part of your wellness, health, fitness journey.
Yeah, and maybe you could even do like a morning walk or an evening walk to help with your sleep cycle. And like you said, just tie it in together so that one thing helps another, and then hopefully that ripple effect will go throughout your day and you'll just be feeling better and better.
Yes, absolutely. Movement is so important. And some people look at it as like exercise. Some people, maybe don't, but I'd say it definitely can. Doesn't matter how you categorize it, but getting in daily movement through walking is absolutely incredible. Just like you said, the sunlight's amazing, the fresh air, moving your body is going to help with your recovery from your exercise, sort of like, lubricating your joints, for lack of a better way to say that. But just really getting circulation going. It's going to be amazing for your cognition. I swear all my best ideas come to me on a walk all the time. I go out for a walk and I'm like, wow, I just had this amazing, incredible idea. And it always just reminds me the power of moving your body and what it does for not just your body, but also your brain. So if you are someone who, it's very common to, maybe you're very sedentary, just sort of living a sedentary lifestyle, you don't exercise or intentionally move, is I would say starting to implement a habit of getting a morning walk in or an evening walk or both. But yeah, working up to 8 to 10,000 steps a day is an amazing place to be for our health and just reducing all-cause mortality. So that is where I would say is like sort of optimal to work up to. I know for a lot of people, maybe you're getting 2,000-3,000 steps a day. And so the idea of that is like, oh my God, that's very scary. You know, I can't do that. So meet yourself where you're at. How can we get in and, you know, plan a daily 20-minute walk and just start there, right? Or you can break it up however much you want. But a way I'd like to think about daily steps is usually 10 minutes of walking is about 1,000 steps. So if I want 8,000 steps today, I need to get 80 minutes of walking in. So I start my day, you know, I do 20 minutes walking outside. Maybe at lunch, I eat lunch and I go for a nice 40-minute walk. And then I could do a nice like 20-minute post-dinner walk, which, side note, is also amazing for your blood sugar regulation, for your digestion. So many benefits with that. But so starting to incorporate some sort of routine with that and just up your steps a little bit if you're not already getting 8 to 10K. And then adding in some resistance training when you feel ready for it is an incredible way to get started. And if you say, okay, how do I get guidance? You know, I'd say if you can, the best route to get some guidance would be a trainer or, you know, a fitness coach. But if you're like, okay, that's maybe not in the cards for me right now, starting with just doing some research on some different YouTube videos. I'll give a little bit more insight with resistance training here too, is when you're resistance training, I have a lot of women who come to me who they're saying, yeah, I work out, I follow these videos or whatever, and I do, you know, my 5-pound weights. And what happens is if we're only doing the same weight every time we work out, it's really not challenging our body in a way that's going to, you know, send any significant signal to our body of like, hey, we gotta grow, adapt, change, progress. So we really want to challenge our body in a way that's going to sort of signal to your muscles like you need to build back stronger and better than you were now, because, you know, or else we're going to not survive, right? Like that's kind of the signal that we're trying to send to our body. So we do want to make sure that we are resistance training intensely enough. And what that looks like is just each week, try and be a little bit better than you were last week. So if this week you did squats with 20 pounds, next week, can we try maybe 25 pounds? Or maybe you can add 2 reps, right? Like just those little ways that we can progress you with time is going to be the best way to make progress. So wherever you're at now, whatever strength level you're at, start with where you're at and then just slowly build from there. See how you can make incremental progress and changes with time. And that's really the concept of, you call it progressive overload. And that is how we really see amazing changes with our muscle, with our performance, and just overall supporting our health and longevity the best we can.
And there's something really cool about when you realize you can do heavier than you did, or you go to do something you haven't done in a while and it's way easier than it was before. That's a really cool feeling.
100%. It's such an empowering thing for your mental, your mindset. And I know we talked about before we were recording this is we could talk all about mindset too. And that's something I love to chat on. But I always think about like exercise and you know, just healthy living, like as kind of the base of any sort of personal development journey you want to go on. So if you're someone who's like, I want to, you know, just start enhancing my life, like, and you're like, where do I start? Do I start my career? Do I start with, you know, my relationship? Do I start, like, where do I sort of start? Is start with these things. Start with implementing some exercise. Start with improving your nutrition. And this is really the thing that I find to be such a catalyst for people when it comes to feeling better, you know, if mental health is a big priority for you, if, you know, growing in just different ways is important to you. Like the confidence that resistance training gives you is just unmatched. And I love seeing just the women that I work with improving their confidence in themselves. It's so empowering. Just like you said, when you see yourself progressing and like, wow, I could deadlift 100 plus pounds and I had no idea I could do that, you know, but it's super cool when we can see that ourselves progressing every week. And it's just really seeing the reward of your efforts paying off. It's super cool to like have that real-time feedback And that I find translates so well into, oh, if I put an effort into my business, or whatever it might be, then I'm going to see some payoff.
And I agree about this being the right place to start because it's kind of like the airplane oxygen mask thing. You can't help other people until you help yourself. And it's kind of like that. Like, you can't do business and relationships and all these things if your body's not working. So if you start with your body and you feel good, you're going to be more energized and feel better and be more likely to be able to do better at work and be better, when you're showing up for your spouse, your kids, your friends, whoever it is. So I totally, totally agree with you on that one too.
Yes, it's the basis for everything and helps develop such a growth mindset. And I think this will be a nice, like, little caveat topic for us, like, in this conversation, is what a growth mindset is basically just believing in your ability to change, to improve, to see results, right? If someone comes to me and they want to see results, but deep down they don't really believe that they can improve or that they're going to be able to see the changes, right? Like, I have a lot of women who they've tried everything under the sun. They've done all these different diets, they've done all these different things, and they're like, well, I guess just nothing works for me, right? And that's like that deep rooted belief that is going to hold you back, because if we don't believe in our abilities, we don't believe in the ability to change, then we're not going to take any action. Because what's the point of taking action if you don't really believe that we're going to be able to see the results that we want to see? And so I think that, like, resistance training, or just even like sports in general, is amazing. I always talking with people about, I work with a lot of moms, how getting their kids into sports, right? Just in the gym, whatever it is, you start to see, oh, I put in effort and I can improve. And that just really develops this growth mindset that I think bleeds into so many other areas of life. And so this is a really good thing for you to kind of ask yourself, is when whatever domain in life it is, right? We can have a growth mindset in your fitness, but you can have not a growth mindset in, like, your business, just to keep it simple, or not a growth mindset in your mental health, right? You don't believe that you can improve. And really the place to start is just seeking all the evidence, what other people have been successful that came from where I have been. And when you start to see, wow, this change is possible for me, you can develop a growth mindset and you can start to take action and see the payoff of it. You can see, oh my gosh, I have more energy. Oh wow, I'm seeing the progress that I want to see. I'm getting stronger. I'm getting healthier. And once you see that, you go, oh, I can keep going, right? And so making sure to really check your mindset and asking yourself, do I truly believe in my ability to change? That's a really, really great question to ask yourself.
I love that. That is really good because I also think a lot of people justify bad behavior with, well, it doesn't matter anyway. I might as well just eat these chips because I'm not going to lose weight anyway. I'd rather just be happy than, put in the work. And so that justification, if you take that away and say, no, I can try this, I can make a difference, then, you're not just admitting defeat right off the bat. You're actually going to try. And what is it to build a habit? Like 6 weeks?
That's a good question. There's a lot of like conflicting research. I think a lot of different stuff on that, but
well, it's some amount of time. Maybe it depends on the person to build a habit. So maybe you could say, okay, I'm going to start with one of these rocks and I'm going to do it for, a couple weeks, maybe 1 week, and just see if I can stick with it. And then add the second one the next week. And okay, if I'm just going to do these two, and maybe if you could add them in a progression and just, give yourself a short time window. Like, I'm going to do this for a month or I'm going to do this for 6 weeks. Just see where you get and how you feel at the end, and then decide if you want to keep going. Because I think so many times we look at this mountain and we think, I can't do all of that and I can't start it all right now. And you don't have to go clean out everything in your refrigerator right now and join a gym right now and do it all right now. Just pick one, like drink water, pick that one, start it, and then just chip away. And, it's that step by step versus just trying to climb the whole mountain. And hopefully, that's something that we can do, that then we can build those habits and just keep adding to it so it's not so overwhelming, but then it does become a habit and a part of the day to day.
Yes, and I think of it as a snowball effect. And we'll talk about it in terms of rock as we're talking about the big rocks. But if you have a big rock, which is a big round rock in front of you, and you're trying to start moving it, it's going to be really hard to start moving it. But once you can sort of pick up a little momentum, it's going to start moving even faster, rolling, down the hill, whatever it is. And so I always like to remind people that getting started is the hardest part. Changing your life is the hardest part. And once you can make some lifestyle changes, you can stay consistent with them. You can start to form a new identity about yourself. That is when you start to kind of pick up momentum and you go, okay, I have confidence in myself that I can do this. I have a growth mindset and my ability to change my habits and just, be able to see the results that I want to see. And then you're seeking out support in different ways and you're seeking out knowledge from different sources. That's really, if you're like, hey, I'm in a spot where I need to make a change, I don't know where to start, it's just start taking some action and know that the beginning is always the hardest, but it really does compound with time. And I can attest to that with my own journey. Getting started is the hardest, but take whatever small action you can today and know that you have the power to improve your health, improve your fitness with the habits that you start with now.
Definitely.
Yeah, and like no action is for nothing, right? I think a lot of the times clients, myself, we struggle with this concept of all or nothing thinking of, oh, I ate the bag of chips today. Gosh, my whole day is ruined. Oh my gosh, like my nutrition for the week is so thrown off now. I'm not going to see progress. So what's the point? Right. And like we start to make these like slip ups mean this whole big thing about us and like spiral and defeat us and make it, such a personal, like, gosh, I'm failing. Right. If we can sort of avoid those emotional spirals and be able to just say, yeah, okay, that happened. What am I going to learn from that? Right. Try and learn from what went wrong. Right. What can we do maybe next time to avoid that? But trying to avoid the shame spiral and just being able to move forward and say, all right, today's this next moment is a new choice that I get to make now. I get to go hydrate myself. I can move my body. I can, do anything like that. And I think it's such a good analogy. Like if you had one of your tires slashed, would you go and slash all other three of your tires too? No, right? Like that's so silly, but why do we do that when it comes to our nutrition and our fitness, right? It's really good to just think about how silly it is in that way. Like it's just a way that our brains like to get out of, what is seemingly hard. But, I made a joke when I was giving a presentation on nutrition to a room of, it was at Row House, which is an exercise class. And I was like, if you were to forget to, pick up your kids from school, would you just say, oh, screw it and leave them there all day? And one of them goes, yeah. But yeah, it's just like those little analogies I think are awesome to think about when it comes to, okay, if you miss a workout, so what? You can do it tomorrow. Your whole week isn't ruined. Not everything has to be thrown off. And just have some compassion with yourself. And if you're someone who has big goals and, high expectations for themselves and you like to overachieve and, whatever it is, I think it's very easy to get hard on yourself and get really down when something doesn't go as you would have wanted it to, or you acted in a way that isn't in alignment with the person that you want to be. But just, getting curious. Like I just think of it like Curious George. What are we going to learn? And let's just move forward.
Castle Biosciences is a proud sponsor of this I Believe podcast. Castle's innovative uveal melanoma tests provide valuable information about the risk of your eye cancer spreading to help you and your healthcare team individualize the management of your disease. To learn more, visit castlebiosciences.com.
I love that. And we talk a lot about that on this podcast, about give yourself some grace and don't beat yourself up, because we're not all perfect and you will have slip ups, and sometimes they might be intentional. You might say, you know what, it's my birthday, or it's my friend's birthday, or it's, whatever, and I'm going to treat myself and have this dessert. And that's okay, because we want to have a healthy, well-rounded life. We don't want to restrict ourselves and be the person who never eats anything, because I think we all know that person who shows up and never eats anything, and you're like, okay, it's Christmas, you can have the brownie, like, just, it's okay.
Absolutely. And I always say that it's what you do most of the time that is what matters. And super important to like consciously choose, okay, yeah, I'm going to indulge in this today. How can I be mindful with it? How can I really appreciate the taste and the flavors, and maybe not look at it as something where I need to fill up on it, right? It's not really made for that, but it's just made to appreciate the taste and maybe connect. Maybe your grandma made her special pie that, you eat once a year. And are you going to be like, no, grandma, I can't have the special, traditional pie that you always make? It's like, no, that's an opportunity for connection. And, that I would say is a health positive habit, is connection, is being able to be mentally flexible and not start stressing and spiraling about, oh my gosh, this isn't aligned with, my nutrition plan. Right. And so having some of that balance is really important. I think it just comes down to being real with yourself. Sometimes people can start to take that and be like, oh yeah. And it starts to maybe trickle into not so much being balanced for them, and in a way that isn't really serving them. But I think it's so important to really focus on what your thoughts are around these different things and not stressing crazy about slip ups. And this really leads me to the last big rock that I would say, if you're wanting to change your health, improve your fitness, improve your nutrition, whatever it is focusing on your stress management. So this is obviously a very big, broad topic. We could go into so many things with it. But just having different things in your life where you're, connecting with community, right? That's going to be a great way to improve, our mental health, lower stress, doing things like maybe you're having a really rough day and your mind is racing, doing something like journaling your thoughts out, writing things down, or, I love to take a hot bath when I'm stressed out. That helps me feel so calm. It's finding what are those things that really help you de-stress. For some people, it's setting better boundaries with your work, right? Cutting off work at a certain hour. But overall, just seeing how we can make sure to have time in that calm state, because it's called the parasympathetic state when we're calm. That's very important to be in. And the opposite of that would be sympathetic, which is our fight flight response. And that is also great. It serves its purpose. But when we're in a chronic low grade fight or flight all day, that can absolutely have detrimental effects to our health. And so just being aware of that, if you feel like that is you, start taking steps to be able to lessen that stress, but however you can. And it's going to look different from person to person, but it's definitely not something to ignore when you are on a journey of improving your health. Because I have a lot of people, like I said, who work with me who are very busy, and they're moms and they're maybe working, they're just have a lot going and on their plate. And stress is something that it's easy to sort of overlook and to ignore in a way. But it's really important, if you are someone who does deal with a little bit more stress, is to be proactive in your stress management. And I always think of it as be proactive with it and not reactive, because, we don't want to be doing these things only when we're blowing up and it's our worst day ever. And, we've hit our breaking point. It's okay, let's maybe make meditation a regular habit, and it's thing that will help prevent some of those, big stressful moments. So look at your stress management tools as a little bit of like a proactive type of habit, instead of just a reactive thing that you lean on when you really need it.
That's a great way to look at it. And I think with everything, we want to be more proactive than reactive, because reactive is usually going to come out of some kind of an emotion or something where maybe we're not putting our best foot forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And this whole talk of just the big rocks in your health and how you could potentially improve things, it is making that change to being proactive with your health, being proactive with your fitness. Like with anything, I think a really good example is like budgeting or, finances. If you are someone who's like, well, I need to improve my finances. I really want to improve, but, I don't want to budget. I don't want to write things out. I don't want to look at the numbers. It's like, wait, hold up. How's that going to work? And so it's the same thing when it comes to your health and fitness. Is a lot of people say, well, I want to improve this. I'm trying this. And they're just not really sure like what they're doing, or it's very unclear. But when we can get granular with, all right, like we're starting to track some data, we're starting to have targets for you, and we're starting to get consistent with those things, then we can really see, how's your body responding? How is your health symptoms improving? And being able to measure that and move you forward in, your transformation. And that's really what I help people do, is like be able to be proactive and make changes that are aligned with where they're looking to go, be able to see the progress that they want to see.
I think that's so well said. Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I'm excited that you're here to tell us all of these things in a way that is digestible and something that people can implement. So to everybody watching, I hope that you are thinking right now of the ways that you can start implementing some of these. And Anna, if somebody wanted to work with you, do you work with anyone online, or is it all in person?
Yeah, so most of my coaching is actually fully virtual. So I do fitness coaching and nutrition coaching all virtually. And it's actually the best way to work with me if you are like, hey, I want to transform my health, I want to transform my life. We're able to really, support you in all those different aspects versus, in person is great if you're like, I just want a session, I'm busy, I just, I need to get in, get out. Like that's kind of the only touch point. But with online, it's awesome because we're able to really kind of support you in all the ways. And it's honestly the better way if you're really looking to transform to work with me. So yeah, you can absolutely work with me online if anyone's interested.
Lovely. So tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, so best way to connect with me would be Instagram. So my handle is just my name at Anna Clough. So ANNACLOUGH. And then if you want to look up my business, you can look up my website. It's strongandhealthy.com, but the healthy has 2 L's because the 1 L was taken. But so strongandhealthy with 2 L's. .com is my site, and you can also find my business page on Facebook. You can find me kind of on all platforms. So search my name, search Strong and Healthy, and we'll be able to connect from there.
That's perfect. And we will link all of that in the show notes. So if you want to find Anna, pop down and check out the show notes. And Anna, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to add or that we need to go over?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome. And I really hope that for everyone listening that this was valuable, and hope that you were able to take at least one thing away today. But really just what I want to share with everyone is reiterating the message of meet yourself where you're at, and start with picking maybe one thing, pick 2 or 3 things, and get specific with, okay, what do I want to implement? And start tracking it. Start holding yourself accountable in a way that works for you. So if you say, all right, I want to start drinking more water, right? And you just kind of say that and you just go about your life. A lot of times nothing happens. So if you can get specific with, we call it like implementation intentions, where you can say, okay, specifically, I want to drink 100 ounces of water per day. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to start washing my water bottle at night. I'm going to make sure that my water filter is refilled at night so I can fill it in the morning, buy a bigger water bottle to help me. and having like just a little tracker. You can even use like a calendar, is just putting a check mark on each day where you're able to hit those 100 ounces. And remember that we're going for consistency, not perfection. So it's easy to get down on yourself if you miss a day, miss a few days, but okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying and just be able to move forward. So don't think, okay, I need to be perfect, but any progress is progress. So get specific with what are the things that you want to improve, write them out, and very specifically, like, imagine in your life, what are going to be the barriers that come up? What are going to be some challenges? And how can I get ahead of that? If, you know, you're someone who say, okay, I want to start eating more protein, but maybe your family is cooking all these meals that don't have much protein in them, and maybe you go out to eat at this place that doesn't have a lot of protein, whatever it is, then it's going to be really hard to start eating more protein. And so you have to kind of get creative with, okay, maybe I'm going to think, okay, I need to get some protein shakes on hand. I need to have access to that, right? How can you make things easier for your future self? Start thinking about and visualizing you actually doing that thing, and then have some sort of way that you're tracking your progress, tracking your consistency, to be able to make sure that we're following through and really being able to see, oh, okay, how do I feel with implementing these things? What's different? So that we can iterate, we can change things, and just sort of not willy-nilly just kind of hope for change.
So we can't just say, I want to be skinny, and then it just happens.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, getting specific with a few things, and just even like a consistency tracker. You can probably find, just do a quick Google search and like have like a habit tracker, but picking a few healthy habits that you feel confident that you can do, right? It's so important that you have confidence and you sort of know that you can actually implement it. Like if you say, oh, I want to start walking 10K steps a day, but we have an office job, and then after work you're sitting like helping your kids with school, and you haven't actually thought about when you're going to get those steps in, like that's a recipe for failure. And so we want to get really specific with just our planning and being able to put things in place that really help support you in your success.
Such a good idea.
One more thing is accountability is huge. So yeah, whether you're having accountability from a coach, whether you're having accountability with, maybe you tell, your partner or just, a family member, like, hey, this is something that I'm working on and doing, or even like on social media, like starting to like post it on your story. Like every day I'm posting my morning walk, and then you can be like, hey friends, this is something I'm doing. It's day 1 of 30. Doing a little challenge, and like having some sort of external accountability is so powerful, because I think a lot of people get down on themselves for not feeling like, oh, I just don't have enough willpower. I just can't hold myself accountable, when it's like, we're not designed for that. It's really, there's so much power in external accountability, and really don't feel bad for leaning into that. I'd say lean into it and utilize it. And that is really what the most successful people do that are, doing well with their health and fitness goals.
That's a great idea. Kind of like a gym buddy. I always do the best working out when I'm going with a friend, and because there are those mornings that I know I wouldn't have gone if she wasn't going to be there expecting me to show up.
Exactly. And that's why people love to like hire a trainer, is you just have the appointment, right? Obviously the professional guidance, and, you're doing things the best way, but just literally having the appointment alone is so powerful. But yeah, gym buddy is awesome as well. I'd say a little caveat with that is like, you're kind of relying on if your gym buddy like loses motivation or, whatever it is. But if you can have some sort of accountability with that, or even just like texting your friend, like, hey, I'm going to the gym 3 days a week, and this is my new goal, and I'm going to send you a picture and the timestamp every time that I go. Can you hold me accountable, right? Just like some little things like that can be really helpful.
Such a good idea. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in. This has been such an informative episode. Anna, thank you so much for bringing us all of this information. This was so great. And I really hope that you all can take away some easy, simple steps to get started on your health and wellness journey. Or if you're already started, maybe you can just add something to help you keep going and continue down that path, because it's a long, hard path, but it's so worth it, and you will feel better and you will see results and you will get there. You just have to keep at it. And that's a lot easier said than done, we know, but we're just here to encourage you to try your best. So thanks for tuning in. If you would like to see more episodes like this, please subscribe. You can subscribe on YouTube, where you can watch the video version. The audio version is on Podbean, Apple, Spotify, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Please also subscribe there. We would love it if you followed us on our socials. And for all of the updates for the month, we do a monthly newsletter. You can go to our website, acureInsight.org. There's a button at the top to follow the newsletter. That will come out once a month and bring you all the community updates and information on clinical trials, all kinds of things that we feel are important to deliver to you. So please follow us and connect with us. If you have anything that you would like to see featured on the podcast, always reach out to us. We would love any ideas. We want to know what you want to see. And to our sponsors, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode and all of the episodes. We couldn't do this without our sponsors, and we would not have sponsors without our viewers. So thank you to all of you, and thank you to Anna. This was fantastic, and we will see you next time.